Well, in chapter 5, we discuss what I think at first sounds like an incredibly boring topic. Money. Money and the gospel. But actually, the New Testament goes on about it quite a bit. And I know sometimes this theme has been spoilt by preachers demanding money. But there's no question the New Testament gives real honour to those who use the financial resources God has given them to advance the gospel. When you give money to a gospel project, you are actually involved in the gospel project. You're an actual partner in evangelism, as if you were preaching. In the days when I used to sing in a band, we also used to be invited to speak about our faith. So the band kind of was part of just a secular career and partly a ministry. And we were way up the top end of Australia in the Northern Territory, doing concerts amongst Aboriginal people and all sorts of stuff. And we had to be in Melbourne, which, if you know anything about Australia, is like the other end of the country, right down the bottom, long way away. And we had to be there in like 4 days to do about 3 or 4 months of school concerts where we were able to perform and speak about our faith. So we were racing down the Stuart Highway, this 3,000 kilometre highway, to get to Melbourne. And the engine that in the truck that had all the gear in it blew up, sort of in the middle of Australia, where basically no one lives, okay? And it was about 100 kilometres north of this little town called Coobapedy. And we were stuck in Coobapedy, thinking there's no way we can get to Melbourne in time. We're going to have to cancel all of these school concerts. So many churches had been praying and looking forward to our presence there where we could sing and preach the gospel to thousands of students. We rang our manager in Sydney, told him the problem. The truck had to be hauled to another city where they'd find an engine. It was a disaster. We did not have money enough to pay for the thing. But just before we started to cancel all the shows, our manager called us the next morning to say actually someone in his church who heard about what had happened on the spot wrote a cheque for a very big amount that paid for the haulage fees, brand new engine, mechanic fees, and within 24 hours the truck was back on the road and we ended up in Melbourne, didn't have to cancel a single show, and for the next several months we sang and we preached the gospel to many people. Now, the bloke who had written the cheque, his name is Cam. I will never forget him, because under God, what he did for the gospel was every bit as much a promotion of the gospel as what I was doing in front of the microphone every night. Sure, I was the preacher, right? I was the one that people would listen to as I talked about Jesus. But what Cam did as a Christian was just as important. I really believe this. He was a partner in the gospel. Sure, he wasn't doing the preaching, but he was supporting the preaching financially. And here's the thing, the New Testament over and over gives high honour to people like Cam. And in Philippians, Paul calls it partnership for the gospel, financial partnership for the gospel. He says to the Philippians, at the end of the letter to the Philippians, that their contributions to his gospel work are a fragrant offering to God. This is the language straight out of Old Testament sacrifices, applied to gifts for gospel work. It's the biggest compliment a Jew could pay to someone, to say your gifts, they're a fragrant offering, sweet-smelling offering to God. And what this reminds me of is when you give sacrificially, financially, to the work of the gospel, you are not a mere spectator on the sideline watching the gospel show. You're actually on the field participating. You might not be scoring the goal or shooting the basket, is that the right phrase? But you are contributing in an important way. You're a partner in the gospel. So although financially contributing to the gospel may seem boring, the apostles think it's very exciting.